Do the word on, but maybe. Yeah. I was a little for cracks. I'm convinced. Pretty done. I'm saying it was a little. I've been just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
No worry, you get.
Yep.
Good evening. I call to order the public meeting for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Zoning Appeals for the City of Albany. Today is Wednesday, October 4th, 6 p.m. ish. Yeah, it's early. We only have one project on the agenda this morning. Project number 00553, area variance number 0161. Property address is 161 Washington Avenue, Extension, unit under 103. Applicant is eligible as inside Inc. From the district mixed use community power with rollers and construction and new wall signs to try to fit into corporate rebranding. The request is to allow for a 207 square foot wall sign where the maximum permitted is 32 square feet. Yeah, it's here. So we're going to come up. You can present your application to us. And we'll try and wait for questions to come in. And then see if there's any public comments.
Well, thank you for having us this evening. I'm David Cruzanti, Metropolitan Sign Company in Baldwinsville, New York.
Hi, I'm John Herenda, operations for Planet Fitness.
Pardon me, just make sure you're speaking into the microphone as you present. Thank you.
Okay, we're here this evening for the new lettering to go up on the fascia for Planet Fitness. Same corporation, same owners, and in 2021 they had new corporate ID, and we're changing over all of them, even in the Albany area. There's 3 more that we have to do in this area. And it's a new design, new colors, new everything. But this is actually a lot smaller than the original one that we had up there. It is all LED illuminated, 12 and 24-volt systems, and LED modules inside each letter and the logo. So I know we saw and took some measurements of our surrounding neighbors and everything, and we're actually smaller than our neighbors. So what you see is the original one with the yellow background versus the new one that by Planet Fitness new specifications cannot have a background. So it's just individual letters and logo. That's just the banner we put up, and that's the actual new design. It's a lot cleaner looking. It's the mulberry color. It's got a white pinstripe around all the letters, and the Planet Fitness logo is a little bit different than the original one. And all the specifications that are on the left side of that, the sizes and everything. And it's, like I say, it's smaller than the original one.
Okay, excuse, can you speak to the character of the neighborhood? How is the requested variance consistent with the character of the surrounding properties? How would the requested variance change the character of the neighborhood?
Okay. It says that we're replacing the existing signage with the new Planet Fitness design and colors. And the new signage we place in the same area as the removed sign and logo. It will be LED illuminated. In addition, the square footage of the signage and business on either side is 480 square feet and 360 square feet. Those are the two we.
Were there any alternatives considered?
Any alternatives?
Sure, like alternative, signs to comply with the sign ordinance. Were there any alternative signs considered?
The sign ordinance is 32 square feet. So if we had 32 square feet, the letters would probably be 8, 9, 10 inches tall, and the logo would be a foot and a half. And no readability on that size. So
Because of the location of the Planet Fitness, which is in kind of a mall setting.
correct.
How is the requested variance not a substantial deviation from the USDO requirement?
Well, like I said, the changeover is approximately 40% than the original approved sign package. I don't know how long that's been there. I don't know how long the Planet Fitness location has been. But it is, as I say, 40% smaller than the original approved sign package. Way back when. At least 10 years.
Will the proposed variance have an impact on the environment?
There would not be any adverse impact, any development factors for this changeover because it is a shopping center and we are surrounded with the same size or larger signage that our neighbors have. So being a shopping center, there's no adverse impact on the neighborhood.
How is the need for the requested variance not self-created?
Our request for the new signage is not self-created, as it does not comply with the corporate standards. Planet Fitness International at 32 square feet. It would not comply with anything that they have. And that's why we're asking for the 277 square feet. Is requested.
Then we requested Metropolitan Signs provide the corporate standards. So can you go through that on these next few slides, please?
Well, in corporate standards, the color is each letter has a percentage of the height of it. 0.012% of the height of the letter is the white pinstripe that surrounds the mulberry, which is the drawing you see there. And then the new Planet Fitness logo has a different thumbprint. And it's got PF, and it has to be to the left or stacked or any of the alternatives you see there. There it is right there. See the white pinstripe around there. Actually, these are all provided from the Planet Fitness corporate, United States corporate level. And we have to maintain those standards in every single letter we do. And the inside the letters are all LED. Overlaid. See the PF logo right there. And that's always put to the left of the letters. If there's just a logo, like on an end cap on the building, then you have to spell out the word Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness in its entirety, as you see there. It's standalone. Sometimes you have the front of the building that's on a corner that wraps around. They put the independent logo around on the corner or on the other side. So if it was around there, they would have to see Planet Fitness on it.
Thank you.
Just really quickly, you mentioned that this corporate change, you did mention other plants in the Albany area. Are any of those in the city of Albany, and will you be seeking variances for those times as well?
Locations.
There's none in the city itself.
Oh, the United City.
Yeah, surrounding.
Okay,
Well, see, what I think, to answer your question, Amsterdam, Troy.
so no other ones within city boundaries?
No, nothing here.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
I don't have a question so much the comment. I just really want to, sort of express appreciation for the corporate design team by not requiring sort of that large, background framing, because I think that significantly, contributes to the extent to which people are asking for a deviation from the code. And I think it's a good standard to set. It's like an easy alternative that we have to work with applicants to get rid of that and reduce the dimension. So, and I also appreciate the note in your application, or maybe it's just from staff, that the proposed signage is 40% smaller than the current wall signing. I think it's a respectable effort to, again, ask for the least amount of variance necessary.
Thank you. And we provided color drawings, but on this sketch here that we provided to you, it looks terrible. Because you can't get the print of the burgundy against the stone. But when we put that up with white pinstripe, that one's a little brighter, stands up a little brighter, but it'll look very nice. It's sharper and richer looking than the previous layouts and designs before 2021.
So you mentioned that the sign is illuminated. Was
Yes.
the previous or current sign, is that illuminated?
Yes,
And
it was. Yes.
the same amount of brightness?
Yes, that was because it was older, it was before LEDs came out, and that was neon. Plus the energy savings is 95%. There's a lot of LED stuff on the market, like light bulbs and every fixtures. But when you transpose and take out neon and put LEDs in, the actual factor is 95% energy savings. It's more than any other LEDs in the industry nationwide. Is the changeover from neon to LED. The savings is a true 95% energy savings. Sure.
I think I have just a couple of comments, clarifications, I think, for the record. So I think, it's important to say that this property is in a really specific area of Albany. Basically, it's in a shopping mall kind of area. It's kind of highway, with no residential units. So I think the standard for the 32 square feet is for, when you live in downtown Albany, you don't want a city that's
Absolutely.
things like that. So, the relevance of a 220 square feet sign. And it speaks to the substantiality. Yes, it's a substantial deviation from the standard. It's, just 177 compared to 32 square feet. It's large. But when you consider that this is a large building in a very specific environment, I think that's just very important to make that clear. The other thing is just, so from looking at the corporate rebranding requirements, it seems to me, but I want to get clarification on that from you guys, that the corporate rebranding did not specifically require a size for the lettering. It seems to me from what it reviewed that, it provided requirements for how the letters are supposed to be, the colors, but like, so the reason for the size we picked is, I'm assuming, for the need for indication, right, for people who are driving through the store, it's not a walking area, to be able to easily find where they're going, find where they're parking in front. And so it's directional, it's, for safety, for direction and for information purposes, and visibility really. So it's not, the size is not required by the rebranding, right?
Right, we try to pick a side, it's not too big, and it's actually, if I can say, smaller than the other one. But something that's visible, and as you can see it on the building there, she's not holding the color. It fits in there nice above the entrance, to the left and to the right of the columns there. So we try to make it so, it looks nice, the plaza looks nice, and looks nice for the Albany area. So we try to combine all our efforts to make it a package that everyone's happy with. We didn't come in with something that's, it's at 10-foot letters and, and like you had mentioned with the background, it's a little bit obnoxious. So we wanted to make it sharp and up to modern codes and easy to read also. So that prospective customers can actually go and see the establishment.
Thank you.
Sure.
Has the sign already been replaced?
I'm sorry.
Out of curiosity, have you all already made this change? Have you replaced the sign already?
No, all we have is a banner up there now. I think we have a picture of the banner we put up there. Yeah, there it is. Just so everybody could see something.
Any further questions? Okay, it sounds like based on notes from staff that it is an unlisted action on the seeker. So we need to get a bit of declaration for the action and motion to board on that.
Okay, so I'd like to issue a negative declaration for project number 553.
Second.
Sorry, I had to vote.
Five.
Martha?
Yeah.
Paige?
Yeah.
Everybody, yes? Teresa?
Yeah.
It's all in favor of the negative declaration and motions on the requested variance.
I will move to grant area variance number 161 from table 375.409.1 to allow for a 277 square foot wall sign where the maximum permitted is 32 square feet.
Second. Teresa, have you voted?
Yes.
Adriana, yes. Paige?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
It's all in favor, so area variance 0161 is granted. I forgot to check, but there was no one online.
Well, there wasn't anybody.
From the public comment.
Yeah, there's no one online. No.
But so was that your variance?
Thank you very much. We appreciate your considerations. Thanks for having us this evening. It was a pleasure being here. And I'm going to do my job for it. Let's good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks. I appreciate it.
The commentary.
Sure, I guess it doesn't matter to, I don't know, from you or council, whether you'd like to go over that.
Well,
while we're in the meeting, or you want to adjourn and do
I
it?
mean, I would think that we have a forum and there's no fun. I agree that we just.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we get ready, very excited that we have a full board. I did wanna, also put out there that we haven't had a vice chair in a little while. Now that we have a full board, I figured, it may be something we should consider. You know, it's useful, especially if I'm opposite, but that usually, the vice chair that is the meeting. I think that's the main goal of the vice chair, really. Although, I think our bylaws do allow for, in my absence for, at each meeting, the board to decide who chairs the meeting, so that's also an option. You know, I think we guys think about it, and maybe we can put that on the agenda, of voting for vice chair, at the next meeting. You know, if anyone's interested, just let everyone know. You go from there. It requires a vote. How the vice chair gets it for nominating. Elected. Right.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I already know. Both sides. Sorry.
No, I've heard.
So just briefly, just wanted to touch on the ordinance that was passed regarding cannabis dispensaries and on-site consumption for cannabis. Essentially, the need from this arose because the prior code really only addressed it from a medical standpoint, and then when it was decriminalized, it placed it under it placed dispensaries under the category of a controlled substance dispensary, which is how we would classify like methadone clinics. The attempt was to make a distinction between things like a methadone clinic and a cannabis dispensary. That was based on just the professional planning standpoint, but also a long, about 9-month long public engagement process. So that went through like roughly 900 survey responses and the Cannabis Advisory Committee. So the intent here is to separate the uses that are cannabis related and to not essentially overregulate them, have them placed in a manner that is reflective of other similar uses. So that is in line with the laws from the Office of Cannabis Management and the MRTA law. So what you see here is the non-clean version, but essentially there was some reordering of items. So that's why it looks like everything's crossed out. But really what we did was we added cannabis consumption sites as a new category with definitions. Zoom is okay. Better? Okay. It's true, I had the closest seat, so. And essentially what you'll notice is that by aligning the cannabis related uses to the most similar use, they're going to echo the same the same permitted use status as the most similar use. So for this example, cannabis consumption sites are mimicking bar and taverns. So they are not allowed in residential areas. They're allowed with a conditional use permit in the least intensive of the mixed use districts, and then they're permitted as of right in some of the others. If you,
Can I just
yep,
plain English, we're talking about like places where you can consume cannabis on site.
correct, yep. So it would be
Like, yeah.
Like a cafe, yep. So it's not for retail purposes.
This is prospect, right? OCM. has the lease.
They haven't, correct, yep. But we wanted to address it in here at the same time. But yeah, the state's not issuing licenses at this moment. Nor has there been a lot of business interest in particularly opening one yet, as they're still trying to figure out the economics of it. And the regulations for it are still kind of rolling out, but
But they're essentially moving in restaurants, bars, other. things.
Yep. exactly.
Substances.
Yeah, thanks for that. I guess to that point, the more prominent one here is really the cannabis dispensary. So it's located under the retail section here. And again, we just, for whatever reason, it wasn't, a lot of the items here weren't done in alphabetical order. So we just, in a manner to clean everything up, reorganized it. But the only thing added here is the cannabis dispensary. And essentially it's being taken out of a controlled substance dispensary. And a large part of that is because under the New York public health law, cannabis is no longer a controlled substance. So it's being placed in its own category, but it does mimic the general retail, which is how we treat liquor stores, pharmacies, smoke shops, other things of a similar type. So again, it's going from a use that was highly not just highly regulated, but a use that was only conditionally permitted in 4 mixed use districts and only permitted as of right in the industrial districts, where we don't actually, which is not the ideal location for a cannabis dispensary. So now cannabis dispensaries are now conditionally permitted in one of the mixed use districts, and they're permitted as of right with 1 or 2 caveats in all the other mixed use districts, and then accessory use in the industrial areas. So this kind of falls in line too with where people have been submitting their municipal notifications, which are required when someone's applying for a license under the state. So a lot of the locations would be in areas like downtown or along Central, Lark, or Pearl Street. So this aligns well in terms of the zoning. I don't know if there's any questions on that. Kind of straightforward, but and I guess the cannabis dispensaries would only be for offsite. There's no on-site consumption. There was some additional cleaning up of the language for other uses because we had to make sure that they all now align with the definitions. So we have it defined here, and again, it kind of just refers back to the regulations that are in the New York State law and the forthcoming regulations that will be enacted. And we also removed marijuana manufacturing facility. This is, after speaking with the state, it's not something that we have the purview of regulating. We're preempted. Municipalities are preempted from regulating any cannabis or marijuana related uses that are not on-site consumption facilities and or the cannabis dispensary or like a retail establishment. So we've taken that out of the code. We made adjustments to the parking table just to clarify, since we're adding new uses, they have to be added to the parking table. Otherwise there would be no requirements. Again, we just mimicked the similar uses here. So cannabis consumption sites being similar to bar taverns, and then the dispensaries being similar to general retail. So it's the same requirements for the parking. A lot of this is kind of just, minor things, adding the additional language in here. And also the bike parking required, since there's vehicle parking required. That's what I'm scrolling through right now. And then lastly, there was an addition of hours of operation for specifically for the cannabis dispensaries, and they're subject to the hours that are found in the use specific standards. And I will go to that now so I don't give you the wrong hours.
That was basically just like whatever New York State said.
We do have control over the hours to some extent, so I just miss it. Oh, thank you. I moved it too many times. Yeah, so it's now being set from 8 to 10 p.m. This is based on trying to get it close to other uses and also based on the survey results. So there were some people that preferred more restrictive hours, but largely survey responses indicated 8 to 10 as the preferred time, and to align it as closely as we could to things like liquor stores. Yeah, it's not. Liquor stores would be I believe 9 to 9 on most days, right? And then Sundays they have different hours, and then during the holiday period there's different hours for liquor stores, but that's also done by the state and the county, where there's the difference here where the county does not have a purview over dispensary hours. That you can now. Yep. Yeah, the regulations so the state placed a couple preemptions or parameters around things that you could regulate. So even though we're allowed to regulate hours of operation, you still have to allow a business to operate for a minimum of 70 hours a week. So it couldn't be any less than that.
You haven't,
Yep. Yeah. So there is that data in there. We initially had closed the survey and then did an analysis of the results and saw that we didn't have the survey responses from a lot of the areas that have been impacted. So we opened it back up and did a lot of door-to-door and getting those survey results. So I think it's quite representative. And we were quite pleased with the 900 plus survey responses. So.
Can I just follow up?
Yeah.
Because I know right now, part of the state law, right, the liquor stores there can only be so many liquor stores in certain zones. So we don't have that in Kansas. So theoretically, somebody could open a row of cannabis stores on any block. Not that they would, theoretically.
So right now the state regulates it so that they can't be within 1,000 feet of another.
Okay.
That technically runs out at the end of this year, and they're going to revisit it. The issue with that specifically was due to like New York City, or when you have 1,000-foot buffer, you're ruling out a whole lot of real estate. When we did, let's see if I can pull up the map. When we did the analysis, our takeaway was not to place additional buffers around it because we don't do that for other general retail uses. And there is the locational restrictions where it has to be 200 feet away from a house of worship, or can't be within 200 feet of a house of worship and within 500 feet of a school. If the entry is essentially on the same road as the dispensary location. We've mapped out like the schools and the houses of worship in the city. We have a good amount of both, and that just kind of going through the various buffers and everything, there's a lot of area that already negates for retail establishments. So adding additional buffers to it just made it very difficult to kind of open up that venue. The other thing I'd say though is the state, in just conversations with them, since they're still the ones granting the licenses, they're not looking to be granting licenses in cities like Albany where the businesses are right next to each other anyway. The applications that we've gotten, so we have one that was approved via conditional use permit at 997 Central. And that's being, they're finishing up their internal fit up of the property. And we have some others that have notified us through OCM, but they haven't formally submitted anything to actually open yet. So I imagine that they will very shortly, since there's now more locations that they can go to. And additionally, the application portal is now open to more individuals. Previously, you have to have been under like the card or had the preference was given to people with prior convictions, and now it's being opened up to a larger population. So there's going to be an influx of more applicants and more people who are already in the pipeline. I think there's anything else. Yeah, I think for the most part, I don't foresee people coming to the board for variances. If we add, additional regulations, or maybe there's someone that has a particular need to operate at different hours, that might be the case. But I think for the most part, we haven't seen variances for other uses like liquor stores really. So I don't really foresee many for cannabis dispensaries. And we'll see when we get to the state actually issuing licenses for on-site consumption, but I'm sure there'll be more regulations handed down with that too. Yeah, no problem. Yep.
Sure. Oh. I don't remember. I don't think I signed them up for that. I don't think I signed them up. So what I'll do is I'll double up for the next meeting. Just want to make sure I know. What is that? Do we have? Question. I vote to adjourn. I don't know if that will return. Okay.
Yes.
I drove it. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.